Swift justice is the phrase of the day. Justice and judgment, judgment and justice go together like this right now. No more delays, no more drawn out processes, no more appeals and interruptions, just prompt resolutions and immediate accountability. What's up, y'all? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Today is, what is today, Wednesday? Thursday. Is it Thursday? Oh my gosh. Yes, it's Thursday, June 4th, 2026. Man, this week flew by. It's 1:12. Hey, hold me, love me, squeeze me, never let go. That was just the first 1:12 song that came to mind. I don't know why I didn't sing Cupid. But now it's 1:13, so there's that. Hope you're doing well. That was just a hint of the preview by way of the pre-shuffle message. So let's see where we are. All righty. Yes, 112, one of the greatest male R&B groups, up there with, of course, Boyz II Men. I thought Day 26 was following in their footsteps, but they got cut short, unfortunately. But yeah, Boyz II Men, Dru Hill, Jodeci, all my faves. I love me a good male group. I do. Yeah, so let's go. I was actually thinking about the lyrics that channel right away. 3 of Pentacles in a struggle. So there's some collaborative effort that is not quite as seamless as it used to be, or it may be falling apart at the seams, or things are just not working as smoothly. Maybe even a workplace that's not working as smoothly as it needs to be to get shit done. Kiss me, love me. That's the right key. Never let go. Yeah, High Priestess. Okay. Something secretive about this? What's the High Priestess here for? It's given that although things might be, to me it seems like things might be kind of falling apart, again, behind the scenes, secretly, unbeknownst to whomever is being served or whatever is supposed to be served by this collaborative effort, is something that those that are in collusion or collaboration are trying to keep on the low. Like, not trying, how can I say it? Like, they're putting up a good face or a front, like everything's fine, we're doing great, we're making money, everything's going according to plan, we're right on schedule, right on top of that, Rose, type energy, when really it's like a mess. The schedule is all off, production is behind, the stock room is empty, like there's no reserve product, the profit margin is shot, like everything, the stock price might be declined. I don't know, something here. It could even be an actual company that may not be disclosing its company, like its business affairs, honestly, or true, or they might be keep concealing some things. So it could be a big name company, perhaps, that their employees are none the wiser. Like, consider like Amazon. If Amazon was about to have a big takedown, or some internal collapse of some sort, and there was no warning of it. Nobody would see that coming, because as far as we know, even as consumers, like Amazon is thriving. But it's something like that here, and maybe not Amazon, of course, specifically, but it gives, like with the high priestess, no one is above what's the word, reproach, is that the word? Something like that. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. I think correction, doesn't it? Something like that. I don't know what we talking about. Interesting. Hold on, what does reproach mean? Let me see. Always got my dictionary app handy on the home screen. Reproach. Oh, strong criticism or disgrace. That makes sense, especially with the high priestess. I think in my deck, the opposite of the high priestess is disgrace. The dark side. Interesting. So some type of organization is coming under heavy scrutiny, or maybe they're being audited in some way where, like I said, they're trying their best to keep it together, keep up the facade of things working out. But the high priestess is, first of all, going to not only is already knowing beyond what's on paper of what's good and what's, like they're discerning on a different level. It's like, yeah, you could present all the evidence. Look, they literally presented some type of evidence. You can show me your books, but it's like somebody that may be auditing this operation or this company in a way that they weren't expecting to be. They weren't they weren't expecting to be. What's the right word? Reviewed, I guess. I don't know. Or like researched, or not researched. What's the word? Investigated. There it is. Investigated. Like, okay, that's fine, but what about this? Whatever this is, I don't know, like some hidden books or something that you wouldn't think somebody would know to ask for, that would tell them everything or give them all the evidence that they need to know, or expose, a company's true wellness or not, is what some organization is facing. And with the high priestess, it seems like it's like inevitable. You're not getting around that. Like I said, no one is above reproach. I didn't even really know what that word meant really. So, admonishment, blame, blemish. Ooh, is that the Three of Swords? Yeah. Some real truth that would be hard. Ooh, not justice. Honey, Spirit, please make this plain. Because not justice out on the third card. Maybe it's secret business practices that have been effective in harmful ways, perhaps, or just in ways that are somehow unlawful or immoral to be covert or kept secret from either the general public or the employees of an establishment, or to consumers. Whatever we're talking about here, it could even be, I see a lot of pillar energy in all of this. It could even be something of the physical law nature, or some type of public figures or leaders that are being challenged in some type of way, like criminally. We see that all the time, but something significant here about the actual law, but also the spiritual law too, because the high priestess is in the midst. So that just kind of like elevates it, maybe even a Supreme Court level or some type of high court authority, high supreme justice type of energy is what we could be talking about here. So where it may be playing out in the physical sense, where here it is, certain powerful entities have been able to evade justice in the natural and in the spiritual. It's unavoidable when the spirit is in the mix. That's why it's swift justice, because spirit don't need a preponderance of evidence or a reasonable doubt. It has all the records. It has all the books. It knows every date. It's captured every encounter, every exchange, and it also knows the heart and the intention of those that are implicated. And so the swift justice of it all is exacting precisely what measure of judgment is due to whomever, perhaps all at once in one sweep, but also not prescriptively, but I guess specifically according to involve, specifically according to the level of involvement, enlightenment, ignorance or not, the implication at hand is what I'm trying to say. So there's some that might be due a different type of justice and judgment because they led the operation, or maybe because they misled others into an implication of the operation, or being incriminated in some type of operation, or they misled the public on what they were selling versus what they were actually receiving, or what they were buying versus what they were actually selling, whichever way. Maybe they misled their investors or their board on the actual stock price, and the profit projections, and so on and so forth. It's like, however anyone might have been involved, implicated, incriminated, whatever the case may be, justice is so precise in this case that everybody's not just going to pay one blanket penalty for what the other man did, of which they may or may not have had involvement in or even knowledge of. It'll be according to your part in the matter. And I guess on both sides, because this doesn't have to be negative. So the swift justice could even be in regards to retribution or reward or settlement for things that may have occurred to you and unjustly that you didn't know. That maybe you were just an innocent bystander of, or victim of, or whatever the case may be. So it works either way, but the energy that I'm feeling, it could be, let me not project that, but of course we started with Three of Pentacles being a little bit on the shady side. So that's why it's probably a little more heavy-handed on, it's probably going to be most intensive on the lower frequency than it is on the higher one in this message, but we'll see. Ooh, as I said, that the damn Tower. But as we know, even still, to be fair, sometimes the Tower is a surprise that is not necessarily a bad thing, or not is not unsavory, but it does cause for adjustment. So a best case scenario, this could be a judgment or some type of something being some tide turning in your favor, of which you either didn't even know you were in the market for, or you were in alignment for, or didn't even know was due to you, or in a way that you couldn't have predicted. Well, the high priestess is here, so the high priestess is knowing. But I guess it just depends, if let me think for a second. I mean, yeah, it could be all that, but let's just, it is what it is. This tower is breaking down, and even that could be in favor in favor in a good way for others. But what it's doing is it is clearing structures that were built on faulty foundations anyway. That could be the justice system itself getting a remake or a shake-up in a way that none of us would ever see coming, with an infusion of more spirituality and more of a righteous regard, and what that certainly absolutely would be unexpected in the society that we're all accustomed to. And how that gets to be, I'm not exactly sure. I can't say without doubt, but I have some suspicions that I'll keep on reserve as a high priestess would. But it could be something like that on a grander scale. But either way, it's just clearing space for something more foundationally sound to be established. And, out of that is going to come these energies that were in the struggle anyway. Those are going to be the first to fall, no matter how much they hold tight to, their projections and their popularity and there's a word I'm hearing, like their connections is what I'm hearing. Like some companies might be highly connected and may almost, like I said, like an Amazon, you would never expect to have to answer. What higher calling really will they have to answer to? Even the government at this point is too corrupt to bring them to any particular justice. But it would be like that, having some type of reckoning at that level is virtually unheard of. But unfortunately, okay. So where here, I don't know what this is, but it's where some bigger figures, remember I was saying it's like their employees don't know what's coming. It's like there may be something like that in the works, but where there's a plan to, as it usually is with conglomerates, right, to have the lower tier of the structure bear the impact, where you might lose a whole slew of jobs in the thousands, but it was so-called cutting the fat of things that you could do without. That doesn't negate that these are real people whose livelihoods are being uprooted. But in the effort for the higher ups and the heads of these types of organizations to conserve their own wealth, and perhaps the longevity of the companies they built, they'll make those necessary cuts and sacrifices. And I'm not saying that all company heads are heartless in that way, but usually, you'd be hard pressed to find a CEO that's going to take a pay cut themselves. They'll cut the fat somewhere else. But it's something here because the tower is like falling from the top down. So it's something where that's about to be, it's something, yeah. I don't know what this is, but it's like where it's almost common practice for the little man to suffer. Is something here about that being turned on its head, and this time the higher ups taking that hit. Maybe maybe preserving the lower tiers of this corporation. I don't know. Maybe they still will be impacted as well. I don't see how not, especially if there's a clearing altogether. But it's like you won't be able to, as like an oligarch, to just declare bankruptcy, lay off hella people, and then keep on, keep your good fortune. It's like everybody in some type of corrupt establishment or distorted organization, top down, is going to be dismembered. The entire organization is going to be dismembered. The Magician. Yeah, I just get like this has been in the works to come to fruition on account of the shady practices and intentions, and like some type of like something about the morality of an organizational structure that has been faulty, like something about the practices of it, or just maybe, like I said, like the morality and the ethics, there it is, the ethics of a company has been, oh, okay, and that was what was undercover. The ethics, maybe somehow that, not knowing how, like, for instance, not this specifically, but maybe not knowing how a certain product is sourced, but you're telling your public, it's your consumer, that it's responsibly sourced or resourced or whatever, you know what I mean, like something like that is the reason for this decline. So it may or may not necessarily be the books, like I was saying, or the okay, I'm getting it now. So it may not be like the facts and figures as plain as you can see them that are bringing a company or an organization to its knees. All of that might be upright. It might be exactly what it projects to be. Like, we made this much that last year, we were on track to do this much this year. It's something about what's going on undercover, under the surface. Maybe even, like I keep saying, Amazon, you know how they are notoriously known for not having the best employee practices. Like sometimes the work environments or the constraints of even the drivers and stuff like that aren't the most favorable, particularly to the employees themselves. But that's a criticism on a big company, and even the pay, where it's making billions of dollars, and there's a bit of a mismatch on how that is disseminated through the establishment, particularly amongst the ones that are actually building the company and keeping it going, that keep the lights on. So something like that that's being called to the carpet. This is interesting because it's not like necessarily, that's why High Priestess and Justice are here together, because this may not necessarily be something surface where it's like, oh, they did this and that's why it seems to be like a surprise and a shock. Because, like I said, you wouldn't expect an Amazon to collapse or take a hit in any way, because all we know is that they're making hella money. But what many don't have evidence for or inside intel for is the core of their business practices and ethics from the top down. Like you couldn't know that unless you're in the inner sanctum or circle of the organization itself. To the public, they just do a service for the community that has revolutionized shopping as we've always known it, and continues to do so. Now they're moving into the medical industry. Now you can get a damn diagnosis on. It's just crazy, the markets that they're moving into. But it's something about that. I don't know if it's Amazon specifically, but it may just be generally big companies. And I've said this before, it's just like coming up again, that you're in this era, it doesn't matter what service you render, and it doesn't matter, like I said, how connected you are, how established you are, literally, like financially and materially. It's if your spiritual culture is not in alignment with supreme justice, in this regard divine justice and divine practices, is like being reviewed by the divine for the spiritual aspect of your culture as a business. Even the largest will be accountable for those regulations and those reviews, and will have to answer and make adjustments, or they will see a downfall, or experience some great hit or decline, or fallout from what has been pretty reliable up until this time. And nobody would see that coming. That's what this is. And I've said this before, quite affirmatively. So with the change, how the era is unfolding now, it's like me saying swift justice is like it's like the spirit of the times, because where companies have been able to kind of fall under the radar and inflate their service and their their service to mankind, and solidify their presence by way of like almost like the consumer's fixation on the convenience it offers. That don't matter not a damn as far as the divine is concerned. Even if it would probably fall out by way, as an example, mind you, by way of customer. Well, and that's not even that hard. I don't even order on Amazon as much as I used to be honest. And generally speaking, because of the climate of our economy, people are probably much more conservative about what they're buying in general, no matter where it's coming from. So there is that. It could absolutely be in a decline in sales for sure, but it could even be much more internal and much more implosive, as a matter of fact, where it again rolls up and rolls down. But in this case, I feel like it's going to have an impact more on the higher end of the totem pole than it is on the lower, in ways that they've never been subjected to before. And that is going to be the greatest impact to inspire change, if at all. Because I've said before, it's like either you're going to adjust your practices and create harmony and balance in your structure and in your corporation, or you're going to lose it, or you're going to take such a hit that it will roll up to meet you where you are, and you won't be able to cut the fat to save yourself. And even if you do, that'll be a fracture to the business as well. Like Amazon really can't afford to cut the fat, for real. They have so much business. They need the drivers. They need the army that they have enforced to keep the machine going, to protect that profit. So anyway, it's something about that here, where each organization is responsible and accountable for their own demise, or restructuring, or whatever the case may be. Like whichever side it falls on, like I said, on the lower frequency or the higher end. But those small business up to conglomerates, like it would behoove all to consider the ethics and morality and spiritual aspects of their organizational structure, maybe even as it's being established, but certainly with it never being too late to go back and do some rebuilding, some remodeling, so to speak. But it's hard to get a big company to invest in that, of which there's been no evidence of for need to do before. It's like, and I've shared this before too, when I in my corporate life, right after college, I worked for McDonald's Corporation on the human resources team. And it was fairly new how they were infusing more. At that time, they were making a deeper investment into the practices of their people practices, even on the store level, because they realized, and that might have been a corporate restructuring, overall, like collectively, companies were realizing that they needed to invest more in the morality of the people to directly affect their bottom line. But McDonald's, being revolutionary as it is, was certainly chief on the front lines of that. At least at the time when I was there, it was kind of a nuance to a certain degree, not to have human resources, but to approach it in the way that they were, where there was a really streamlined focus on the morality of the people, to literally infuse different incentives and experiences that that literally had nothing to do with the job per se, and like even in some ways benefits and events and things of that sort, company wide, that would elevate the morale and the pride of working for McDonald's on any level, that they intended for it to ultimately affect the quality of work and production, which would then, of course, affect the profit. So it all trickled down and trickled up at the same time, if you feel me. But that was at a time when there was, before 2008, before the big crash and things were starting to fall apart, where companies had the funds to spare, to venture into that, in some ways, uncharted territory. But now everybody's so tight and everything is so tight, it would be hard. And there has been used to working off the deficit of desperation, just needing a job, just needing to survive, just needing to be able to order my stuff and have it come overnight or 2-day shipping, that there wasn't really much of a compel to, there wasn't much incentive to compel a company to change what is more or less working for them. But what I'm saying is that there is going to be a compilation, if that's a word. That's what I was thinking about. Like, is it compilation? When I took a pause. In a way that will not be able to be ignored, especially by the heads of establishments that actually have the authority to make certain decisions to restructure and change directions. But will they, is the question. And will they resource the quality, will they employ the quality resources to help them do so effectively? Not just, a band-aid over a gaping wound, but really to have, like almost, I don't know what this will be called, but like almost like spiritual counsel, like a spiritual business consultant, or energetic business. I don't know what that would be, but it's a position all its own, where you would almost be like a consultant to the spiritual practices of, and here it is, this is what I was saying, like somebody that knows how to look for infractions that are not just recorded on paper or data. It's about the spirit of the company, the morale of the practices and the production, the wellness of the people, the employees, like kind of considering taking inventory of all things and making a recommendation as to how a company could either restructure for more balance, or to build themselves in a way that it's like built into the structure and is like a fail safe, so to speak, like a spiritual fail safe. And spiritual feels a bit like, I don't know, like it feels a bit too, I don't think it's divisive, but it's something about it that doesn't feel universal when we're talking about business. So there may be another word for that. It's kind of like a performance coach, but from a spiritual perspective, So whatever that is, that's what's going to be needed soon. There's going to be a whole nother field like human resources. This all comes together if you hear it. How I said human resources was venturing out in a way that was a nuance at the time for a massive conglomerate such as McDonald's to care more about the people than they actually do the hamburgers. Which in for the most part, it was a bit of both. It wasn't really so much. They knew that caring about the people was caring about how many hamburgers they could sell ultimately. And that's what it's here. It's like helping someone bridge their void of understanding that your spiritual practices being cleansed to a certain degree and productive, dare I even say prosperous, does affect the productivity and the profit margin of your organization in more ways than you can even imagine, and perhaps back down as it was then to the people. Really listening and understanding the needs of your people and giving them a reason and incentive to want to continue to work for you, not just to barely get the job done, but to be committed to a spirit of excellence, if that can even be inspired. And I think it can, on some levels it can, and by more than just money. There's that too, where some pay scales may need to be adjusted, but it's more than that. It's deeper than that. And most of these CEOs and such are too high on their own horse and too high up in that Tower of Babel to really understand the needs of the lowest tier of their organization. Some don't really care that much as long as they just keep coming to work. And if not, oh well, we'll replace you. But some that may actually have a mind and a will to understand may be the ones that, can be saved and their businesses with them, That's where we're headed. I know it don't look like that, but it's a shift from corporate greed in a way that we have been accustomed to it. It's something that's about to cleanse that energy. For those that want to maintain their, like a new structure. And like I said, for those that want to hold on to it the old way, you will have that right, but you might see your company fall out, the bottom fall out and everything else, including you with it, or you can submit to a new establishment, a new way of doing things that may at first be a challenge, or maybe hard to conceive of, but in time it will prove itself, maybe even immediately. As I said, this is swift justice. Maybe for some an immediate turnaround and stabilization of the business itself in ways that, couldn't be projected by data and numbers alone. That's what that is. Let me get one more and I'm gonna leave this alone. Interesting. Yeah, with more compassion. More, this is the spirit of the matter. The most spiritual king that could come, like not the King of Pentacles, not the King of Swords. This is like the most compassionate leader of all the kings. That's not just leading with the facts or the figures or the practices, the rules, the regulations, even the ambition of it all with the King of Wands. This is literally leading with the heart space, the spiritual intelligence. There it is, the spiritual intelligence of a brand, a company, an establishment. Wow, that's dope. That's what one would want to aspire to successfully lead a business or an organization, a movement, to productively, prosperously, profitably operate the function of leadership, whether it's your own business or someone else's. It's going to be more heavy on that King of Cups energy, emotional intelligence. And that seems so contrary. Like I said, any other king would make sense when we're talking about business and corporation than the King of Cups, conventionally speaking, but not in this era. Not today. No. You need to be an emotional genius, an intuitive genius, or know how to, or resource the people that are, employ the resources that are, where you may falter or fall short, because that's also the character of a good leader, where you may not be able to do it. You know how to find the people that can, and that can advise you in the best practice or direction. This is so interesting. Well, I'm available. I'm available for a consultation. Like I said, I have the corporate experience and I have the spiritual experience and come from. So I'm just putting it out there in the ethers that I am definitely available for hire. Indeed. Let's see. That's dope. The Hangman, enlightenment from what? To absolve you from struggling. Because everybody, like nobody is above a struggle. Not even the biggest of the companies. Like I said, as much as Amazon is a service to the world at this point, it still is susceptible to the challenges of global economies at this point, of the global economy, not even just the national one. So you may be able to tweak from the inside, adjust those levels from your practices off the P&L. I don't even know what that is for real. Kind of, but not really. That will make all the difference in how you either override this challenge and struggle, curb it all together, or at least kind of like, ride the wave and stay above water, or how you succumb to it altogether. Yeah. So I don't know. And I don't know. It's just interesting. And I don't know how you would, I guess, if anybody's interested in such a position of consultation, you know, like if that sounds intriguing to you, like something you would want to do or could do, maybe you could, you know, solicit to small businesses or businesses that are just being established, or like I said, just be mindful of the practices and your ethics and morality when you're building your own. And sometimes that like I said, that can be just as simple as being overtly mindful about how, where you source your materials or your product, how you produce, what you're paying, what benefits you offer, how your customer service model and how you treat your customers. Even if you're a one-man show, like all of those things matter in terms of infusing ultimately like good karma into your business, you know, like banking good karma, so that, you know, that stock will continue to rise and grow and increase exponentially. And sometimes that may make all the difference in leveling out your financial figures, again, at a time when you're not expected to thrive, or it would almost be astounding for you to do well, especially at a time such as in an economy such as this. People will be looking at you like, damn, how y'all still selling staplers or whatever. I don't know, it was so random. Or I started off singing 112. You know, this could definitely translate into the arts as well, you know, on some level of how you're able to thrive in the industries that are undoubtedly corrupted. Why? Because you maintain your integrity. You don't, there are certain things that you just absolutely will not do for a paycheck or for a role or for stardom or fame or even fortune. Your standard, your integrity is structured in a way that your soul can't be bought. And so that it protects your craft, and also opens up doors and pathways for prosperity that may be completely closed to others, you know, opens up pathways for productivity and profitability that are exclusive to you. When they say the whole industry is flopping right now, the music, film, television, but yet somehow you found your lane. I wonder why. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.